Hi dear, I'm Dr. Hong Liu at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. We're in Florida, Daytona Beach, USA. And my co-author, Matthew Brenneman, is not here today. And but so today I'm going to talk about the challenge and the opportunity brought up by the GAI tools like ChatGPT and the BERT, and how we're going to address those challenges to alter our instructional design, and how do we change our assessment method to make sure to mitigate academic misconduct and the strategies to promote fairness. I'm going to use 3 use cases to show how we do it. So we all probably agree the ChatGPT is more knowledgeable than most tutors in help setting programming interface, debugging codes, and more knowledgeable to understand the codes. And it's available 7/24 to answer student questions if they know how to prompt engineer. And the ChatGPT can summarize content, write a literature review, but just don't trust the references. But the side effect is on the academic integrity. And now the boundary between student produced or the AGI produced content are blurred. And most likely, you get the project report that makes the result of both. Well, the skill and the knowledge using the ChatGPT between the students are different. Well, we're going to never offer a course to teach them how to, as we teach the computer skill, because they can ask ChatGPT right away. So we need to change our content and then not to compete with the AGI tools. They can do better job. For example, in my last test in the data mining class, I have 40% of conceptual question. I use those questions, check the ChatGPT and the BERT, and it found what? Found that they both got over 90% of correct answers. That's better than most of my students. So if I give a take-home test like this, it's meaningless because you never know who did it, the tool or students. Talking about the instructional design, we all know we should neither too easy so the student get bored or too challenging, the students have too much anxiety. We need right in the middle ground. So that's not new. But the new environment with all those AGI tools is going to change the kind of territory of too easy or too hard, because a lot of hard questions before no longer hard because students can just ask ChatGPT and they get the answer right away. So when we come to design the assessment, we need to sure can help to adjust the course to match the student's need. In another word, we are in the new territory. We can no longer assume our old knowledge still work for the students. So ideally, we need to figure out what kind of content and the skill we no longer need to teach them, but they only can find this from the students. Now, the first question is, what kind of data we can collect to figure out the proper change so that the competence of the students are not too bored and the unprepared students are not too intimidated. So we are going to do a pre-knowledge assessment design. We have a few aspects. First is the subject expertise. We need to now redefine what is deep knowledge, what's shallow knowledge. Probably use some ontology of the domain. From the pedagogical level, we need to probably readjust the cognitive challenge level, because a lot of things like a coding tool skills, they can get it right in the fingertips by the co-pilot. And we also always need to stay ahead of the students to know how to use the ChatGPT to get the correct answer, or in another word, prompt engineer. And we also use that knowledge to prevent students to use those keywords to get the answer from the computer instead of really learn to find the answer. So those pre-knowledge are going to help us stay right in the middle ground. So if we can find the data collection to answer those questions, and that we're going to make our students, most of students at least, neither too intimidated nor too boring. So the purpose of data collection is to find what knowledge component need to be altered. For example, program skills. In particular, we need a lot of change. And what method, time span need to be modified. And we probably need to shift our teaching to the high-level learning of the principles process instead of the procedures and the facts. So how you interpret the data, once we have those data, let's see what kind of data we are looking for. I'm not going to read all those questions. Those are the data sets we're going to collect to look about the course content. There's 6 questions. And we have done those before. We just need to redo it under new learning environment. So our goal is content-wise, we want most data points from the students stay right in the middle ground from the proportional ROI, the return of investment. The next data set, again, we have the 6 questions. We're going to look for the students' habit to use those technology, how they use it. I'm not going to read this. So from those 2 data sets, we're going to know what we do not need to invest the time, and the students can get it by themselves. And the new part, we're going to spend more time to focus on the deep learning. So the next question is our major concern of this talk, is addressing the ethical issue. So for a traditional course, our grade basically consists of homework, quiz, in-class practice tests, take-home test, and team projects. So I do not think the pocket test have too much change or quiz, but there's a lot of issue about the homework, take-home tests, and the projects, in particular team projects. So if we are not careful, we are not going to know if we are assessing the intelligence of the GAI tool like ChatGPT, or we are assessing the students' learning outcome, because as we talked in the beginning, the boundary is blurred. If it's take home, there could be a mixing of both. So about the projects, how do we avoid the situation student just go online, find a similar project, and modify a few words and submit it to us? So to avoid such a problem, probably first we start from the data. We're going to use the most recent data when the ChatGPT may not have. For example, the stock price in last week or last month. So we also can ask some question very specific. The time, the location, for example, we can look at right now, and in the local time, like where we are in Daytona Beach, the ChatGPT may not have this generic knowledge in the global scale. So we sometimes need to mask the keywords. So it's not easy for students to track back the keywords to find those similar projects. So summarize, we can alter the time, the location, the specifics, and mask the keywords. So the students need to solve their own problem instead of find it online. Here is an example. We can give an example in the class talking about the rat empathetic problem in the statistical question with a few parameters. But when we ask the question, we're going to change this rat empathetic, and now the question became ask the person feel their significant other use the social media effects. We changed basically the rat into the person. So students have the knowledge in the class, an example, but the ChatGPT have no clue what this are talking about, the empathy study. We can also ask some information-starved questions. Use some kind of idiosyncratic approach, some kind of words we defined in our own class, like the well-defined purpose, population, variable, parameter, and those words we talked in the class, and then we just referred to the class. We talked last week, let's say, but the ChatGPT have no clue. So anyway, I'm going to provide 3 use cases to talk about how we deal with this in my data mining class. I taught this in spring 2023. So in my project, I encourage the teamwork to use ChatGPT, use any tool you want. But the key for me is you need to log all activities. Not only you need to log what you queried to your citation, but the team process is enforced for the students working in pair. For each task, my team had 4 students. Each task needs 2 students to work together. If one is the developer Another one will be the validator or tester. If the other one write the essay, the other one need to be the proofreader. But if they use the technology ChatGPT, but not cited, and then I'm going to make both the task developer and the validator be accountable to the misconduct. So they need to weekly log their activities and make it transparent. Any inconsistent claim between the two, once the developer, once the tester, is going to be counted as a misrepresentation. So for the case 2, we're going to use then constantly to log the query they used in the Copilot or any other tool like Genie. And the third case, this is a major effort. I'm not going to have too much detail because of the time limit. From this video, I used actually 4 tools: ChatGPT to make this script, Lumen 5 make it video. I used the 11 Lab to make the voice, and finally use the Adobe to edit the content, the video. The whole idea is using a learning record store to collect the data about the student activity online. In one course of data visualization, only 24 students, I collect more than 200,000 records, all in the so-called XAPI format, which is who did what. We collect so many data, most of them are noisy data, but when we accumulated those data and using the AI learning analytic tools, we can summarize into human understandable assessment. For example, in the end, ideally, this is not achieved yet. From all these 200,000 of record for the class, I can summarize, say, Jodo mastered the data visualization course based on those records to show the competence. Well, in conclusion, this talk is just the start of our new adjustment to the new environment. So we talk about the change in the positive side, help students to learn on demand without any teacher, but the side effect, the fair assessment, equal learning opportunity, we need to adjust our content design by honing the students' feedback. We also need to redesign our testing method, and in particular project and take home, and there's strategies we used. But in the future work, we really need the data to convince this is working. So as a future work, we need the data, and we need the time. This is just the beginning. I have these 10 questions to share with all of you. Thank you so much. I'm going to conclude my talk